anyone starting 3D printing needs to know a little bit about 3D printers. And there are so many different types. These are FDM printers, and they extrude filament and build. There's the Delta, where the Delta printers work more like a spider and have a little different way of working. There are some printers, I've got one back here, that the bed actually goes to the top and the bed lowers. The Z-axis with the print head stays the same location on the Z-axis, and the bed actually lowers as the print evolves. So there are a lot of different types of printers. And there's resin printers, and I have several resin printers down at the print farm. They require ventilation and certain things. I wouldn't want to use a resin printer up here. You spill resin on your carpet or something like that, and you can ruin your carpet. So you have to think about the environment and everything when you're looking at resin printers. But the best ones to get started with are definitely these FDM printers. Now, this first printer that I assembled, as you can see, it has a different support mechanism, and you see I have it sitting on a piece of wood. Okay, these printers you can set them in your lap and they'll print fine. But this printer, it has to be on a solid, level, smooth surface, because any movement, flexing of it, will change the bed leveling. So that's one thing I learned very early. I was printing on this table, or one of these tables like this up here, with that printer originally, and I would level it and everything. And then if I moved it the least bit, I'd notice the level would change. And what was happening was that there's just a lot of stuff that can rack here. You can raise this part up and down, and it'll move the bed, not move the frame. There are a lot of things that you have to be careful about. So if you're getting a printer that's somewhat like this, be sure that you build it, get it on a solid surface, and it's a good idea to even put some little screws in to lock it into a position on that wood so it's not even moving on the wood. And that'll help maintain your level, and you won't start having problems there. But with something like this one, you don't have to worry about that. There's nothing that's going to wobble or anything. This thing will print equally well if the table's out of level, if it's leaning back or over or up a little bit. So you don't have to worry about that. And the A-nets, I like them because they were the same way. A very solid frame. Once it's set up, you don't have to worry about leveling. You get it leveled that first time, and it will run for a long time, print for a long time without having to be re-leveled. Now, cost-wise, I told you I purchased that one for $85. That was kind of a deal back then, I think. But it was in 100 pieces, and I had to put everything together on that. Purchased these king rooms, and all I had to do was put this assembly on here, put a couple screws in it. There were just a few minor things that had to be done to the king room. So it was something anyone could put together, and you could put it together in probably 10 or 15 minutes and have it up and running. Now, I originally was paying about $125 for these printers, and then I think they went up to around $140 or something like that. Right now, they have a newer version called the KP3S. This was the King Room KP3. I believe you can still purchase some of the KP3s. The KP3S is a little different printer, has some advantages over the KP3, but then on the other hand, the things I like about the KP3 over some of the things on the KP3S, but either one's a good printer. They print the same G-code fully as well. For $150, I believe now, or $160, you can purchase the KP3S. And again, you've got this magnetic base that comes on it, and these sheets that will come off that help you remove parts easier. On mine, what I did, I purchased the spring steel PEI sheets. I just left the original magnet on there. It works well with those spring steel sheets. So I can use spring steel, or I can go back to this if I wanted a textured surface. Some of my spring steel sheets are smooth surface, and some of them have a textured surface. The advantage of the textured surface, it will allow you to have a good, consistent texture on the part, where if you're using a smooth spring steel or glass, you get a very smooth, almost glass-like surface on the bottom of your part. However, any little flaw or change in your printing as it goes down the beads, as they lay across there, you can see. And that means that a lot of parts, even though they come out perfectly well printed, they may have some cosmetic problems for some people that don't like to see the lines and variations and so forth on the bottom of the part. So if you want to get rid of those things on the bottom of the part, you either print on a surface like this, which has a texture, or you go to the spring steel with a textured sheet. Okay, the monoprice, these were, I paid about $125 for these also. Now this printer, when you take it out of the box, you hook this little holder for your filament, and you take out some packing stuff, plug the power supply up, and it's pretty much ready to go. You can pull one of these out of the box and have it printing in about 5 minutes. You don't have to do much as far as leveling and stuff. It does its own thing, and like I said, it's very interesting print. The only reason I didn't go with these, I like the fact that I could get a lot of them in a small space, like I did the king rooms when I was up here. Now I have more room. These are some of the parts that I make. Now this part was too large to print on this printer. This part is too large to print on it. This one, even though it looks like it'll print, it's really too large to print. However, these parts can print on it. So there were a lot of parts that I was able to print on this printer. But even this part, I could probably print 2 of those at a time. However, printing 2 of those at a time on there, this printer would only run maybe about 5 hours. And what I do at the print farm, I set the printers up there to where they run normally about 24 hours. If 2 of these take 5 hours to print on this printer, I can go down there and I can print 10 of them on a printer down there in just over 24 hours. So that means that I can start a print job, I can print 10 of them with only having to load the printer once, and then when it's finished I go down, I unload it, and I have 10 parts. With this one I'd have to load and unload it, in other words service it, every 5 hours, and that means the hours at night when I'm normally asleep, I don't get up to service the printer, so I would lose that production with these printers. So all of the printers that I have down there will run 24 hours with these different print jobs. I can get enough parts on there to run them for that period of time. So I try to stay in 12-hour increments with production. And I'm talking about production now and not talking about someone starting. So I'm going to have to really concentrate on things that are going to be of interest to someone starting out. So these are some of the printers. I would not recommend this for someone starting out, even though it's so simple and easy. I would still suggest that someone starts with an FDM printer like the King Room would be fine. Creality Ender 3 is a very popular printer, and it's in that $200 price range. You can usually purchase those for less than $200. You can purchase the ANET ET4s, which I printed a lot of things with, and you can look at some of the videos. And I have a lot of videos on troubleshooting the ANET printers because I've had about every kind of problem imaginable with them and been able to fix all of them. And they're pretty reliable printers. Same thing with the King Room, same thing with the Creality printer. And there are a lot of others. I have a lot of other printers just in this room. Sitting here looking at several now, and different brands, and they all work good. I haven't had a single printer that I've purchased yet that I haven't been able to print my parts with. It's just that once you get into production, you want to kind of stick to one or two printers as much as you can, because there are some different characteristics between the printers and printing parts. So the first thing is picking out a printer. Now that we've talked about a few of these printers, if you're on a budget, you're going to want to stay in that $200 range. Filament's the next thing, and you want to purchase filament, and there are lots of different kinds of filament. PLA, ABS, PETG, and so forth. What you're going to want to start with, I believe, would be the PLA. And this is a PLA filament here. And when you purchase a roll of filament like this, you can purchase these on Amazon, on eBay, just about anywhere. And you can get good PLA for as little as $15 to $20 a roll. Now, a full roll of this stuff is 1 kilogram, or about 2.2 pounds, and 330 meters, which is over 1,000 feet. So you have an awful lot of filament here, and you can print a lot of parts with a spool of filament. Also on here, it gives you suggested print temperatures of 190 to 210 degrees centigrade for your print temperature. PLA, it's easy to print with. All of these parts right here were printed with PLA. One of the later videos, I want to actually go through the steps of getting a part, setting them up on a couple of these different printers, printing the parts, and showing in a little more detail the leveling process and things that you need to know to be successful with that first print. And as you'll find out, all of these parts are printed in layers, and they're printed from the bottom up. That very first layer is the most important. It's very important that that first layer go down and that it's consistent all the way around the surface here. What makes it consistent is having this bed leveled, and we'll go over that. But you have to have a good level bed, and then that part will print with a good first layer. If you get that first layer good, the whole print is likely to come out good. Now that you've selected a printer and you've gone online, you've shelled out $200 or less to purchase that printer, and you've bought a couple rolls of filament, and you've probably paid about $35 or $40 for a couple rolls of filament, you're ready to start printing. So until the next time, happy printing from NewTek Inventors.